For as long as many of us can remember, psychedelic drugs like magic mushrooms, LSD, mescaline, DMT, and psilocybin have received a bad rap. In fact, it has been considered so hazardous to public consumption that the United Nations, as well as most of the countries underneath its banner, have seen fit to enforce the strictest bans on the use and distribution of psychedelics, with their rationale being that the recreational use of such drugs will eventually lead to the negative health decline of the users and the gradual degradation of moral standards of society. However, as all these notions were asserted by governments and international authorities, a part of the truth was being swept under the rug. These authorities failed to take into consideration some of the health benefits these psychedelics could provide, especially those suffering from mental health problems. Let's take a look at what these psychedelics are and how they work, why the authorities have taken a firm stance against them, and whether or not they are right. Do you really need psychedelics? Let's find out. So just what are these troublesome substances, these psychedelic drugs? Well, psychedelics are regarded as a subclass of hallucinogenic drugs, which have the ability to trigger unusual states of consciousness, in which changes in mood and perception of the state of things and self could occur. They are so potent that you don't need more than mere micrograms of drugs like LSD to trigger hallucinations. So, how exactly do they work? Well, that's the thing, nobody really knows. Several studies have been carried out, and people such as Michael Pollan, the current Knight Professor of Science and Environmental Journalism at UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism, have come to believe that drugs like LSD and psilocybin act mainly through the 5-HT2A receptor system. In fact, the LSD molecules appear to be quite similar to 5-HT, which is also known as serotonin, a neurotransmitter in the brain that plays an instrumental role in determining an individual's mood and perception. When serotonin comes in contact with the psychedelics, it's been observed to increase its activity, thereby leading to some of the trips one may go on when they take the drug. So why is it that most of the governments of the world saw fit to ban psychedelics? For thousands of years, psychedelics like psilocybin and peyote have been used for shaman-like activities in order to heal people, meditate, and have experiences while in divination. Well, the reason for the restrictions against psychedelics goes back to the early to mid-20th century, when Albert Hofmann, who was a bright chemist with the Sandoz pharmaceutical company based in Switzerland, inadvertently invented LSD while working for his employers in 1938. You see, LSD, unlike magic mushrooms and psilocybin, which are natural and organic, is synthesized from lysergic acid, which is a chemical that is found when ergotamine, an alkaloid found in ergot, undergoes the process of hydrolysis. So accidental was his invention that Hofmann didn't know the potential of what he had until 1943, when he decided to take another look at the molecules of his creation. During his reanalysis, he must have accidentally ingested the drug or somehow came in contact with it, because he soon went on what was perhaps the first ever trip on LSD. Although they were excited about the potential of the psychoactive drug, Hofmann and his employers really didn't know what to do with it or how to profit from its potent capabilities. So they decided to organize what was essentially a crowd search project, which was carried out by distributing the synthetic drug to any researcher, therapist, or any scientist who wanted it. Following this, there was a buzz of excitement that surrounded the drug during the 50s, and this resulted in some excitement towards LSD's potential towards psychotherapy and some aspects of mental health throughout the 1950s. However, this changed when the drug slipped out of the hands of researchers as it found its way into the general public in the 60s. It is believed that Timothy Leary, a psychologist who had been exposed to psilocybin while in Mexico in 1959, decided to advocate not only for the medical potential of hallucinogens, but for their capacity to change the status quo of society as a whole. Big mistake. As Leary advocated for the use of LSD and the lot, the American government took notice, and this is never a good thing. Not only was Leary labeled as the most dangerous man in America by the President Richard Nixon, this was also going on during the Vietnam War, and it was perceived that LSD was taking away the will of citizens to sign up to their deaths in the Vietnamese jungles. As it was viewed as a fuel for the counterculture of the 1960s, LSD was made illegal in 1968 before it was classified as a Schedule I drug in 1970. A year later, the UN also deemed it as a Schedule I drug, and soon other countries adopted this ban by signing up to the idea of banning it as well. What results is pretty much the death of the research concerning LSD, as well as most psychedelics. However, several decades later, research in psychedelics resumed once more as the therapeutic benefits could no longer be ignored. Research showed, despite the misconception that LSD was harmful to your mental health, as well as having hazardous effects to a user's DNA, drugs like LSD are less addictive than other drugs that are allowed to run rampant in today's society, like alcohol. Not only that, it's also nowhere near as deadly as the little to known deaths that have been linked to the use of LSD ever. Granted, there have been adverse effects like anxiety and paranoia, but this is nowhere near the death toll alcohol has had. Nonetheless, this still doesn't explain why you might want to take a trip down LSD lane. It's been well documented that the use of psychedelics like LSD and more recently psilocybin have proven to drastically improve the health of people, especially in terms of understanding the nature of their own minds in certain situations. People suffering from mental health issues, whether it's people enduring depression due to the state of their lives or people trying to overcome life-threatening illnesses like cancer, have all shown dramatic improvements through the use of drugs like LSD and psilocybin. Granted, it has been revealed that people can have similar experiences without the use of psychedelics, especially people who engage in activities like meditation. But it has been observed that psychedelics help one let go of their own consciousness and overcome their mental issues. It has been observed that one dose of psilocybin has helped people overcome depression and addiction to dangerous items like cigarettes and alcohol. However, this doesn't necessarily mean that the wanton recreational use of LSD and other psychedelics is encouraged. In fact, the reverse is the case. Most experts and researchers insist on taking these psychedelics in what is called a set and setting. That is, you must be in the right mindset or mental state and be in the right physical and social environment before embarking on a psychedelic experience. Even back in the day, people have been known to take LSD in groups or even with a shaman or an expert who will look out for you as you take the drug. And today, the precocious practice is still encouraged, especially if you do not want to experience some of the adverse effects mentioned earlier. All in all, research concerning psychedelics is still really in its infancy, especially as they were banned for a long period of time. They're still banned to this day. However, the fight is on, especially in the US, where more and more people are refusing to accept the misconceptions about the drugs. With any luck, more and more places like Oregon in the US will lift the ban and allow more research on the drug that might benefit the entire world.